All right. How are we doing today? How's it going, guys? So, live from Wolf Bitcoin, it is Saturday night. No, uh, my name is Taj. We are here hanging out with the Wolf Bitcoin crew and all of you amazing people on this wonderful Saturday. And we are doing the Good Bits Show. So, those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Taj. Like I said, been hanging out with Cade on a lot of spaces, live streams, and of course, this is the Good Bit Show. So we talk about all the good, positive things that are happening within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So hopefully you are not staring at the charts right now, getting a nice, I guess you would say, glow coming off of your screen. We're not about that right now. What we are looking at, regardless of what color your screen is the amazing things that's happening within the orange world, right? So we like to highlight some of the positive stories, some amazing things that's happening within the ecosystem. Also, what's happening with circular economies around the world. And of course, the builders that are spreading worldwide adoption. So, a lot of the times we like to focus on price, we like to focus on geopolitics, we like to focus on macroeconomics. But in the mix of all that, sometimes the humanity of why we're Bitcoiners gets lost. So, that's what we like to cover here on this show. So, as far as what is going on this week, we have a few amazing stories that I will share with you. Pull this up right here. If you saw the trailer, this is what came out as far as Brian Armstrong is to match the Trump baby fund for Coinbase employees. So it's pretty exciting in the sense that people that are working for Coinbase will be getting, this hasn't been finalized, all the details of this, but those of you that aren't familiar with the whole thing, there is a part of many of the documents that President Trump has signed since he came into office, an issue, or I guess you'd say an effort to start an investment fund of $1,000 for people or for children that were born. And other various people in the business world, Michael Dell and quite a few others have looked at this and said, you know what, it's a great thing to get young people investing from the day that they were born. So that way we're looking long term and all of these different things. So, as far as Coinbase CEO, obviously Brian Armstrong, someone who is all over the timeline right now, both for political reasons, fighting various bills going through and all this. But in the midst of all that, there's this positive story in the sense that he's going to match whatever President Trump or whatever comes from the federal government itself. And it's going to be in the form of Bitcoin. Now, the reason why I think this is such a positive story, there's quite a few. Let me step over here for a second. There's quite a few things that I think makes this a positive story and really exciting. First and foremost, it is children that are coming into the world, at least as far as in the US right now, with this, if this initiative goes forward as planned, will be Bitcoiners from day one. And it trains them to think long term. So, one of the huge problems that we're having with, I guess you'd say, younger generations, guilty as charged as, the millennials that have been tasked with ruining the world, as boomers would like to say, um, we have a very short term culture, like microwave expectations, not going to the store to get a movie anymore. You just click stream and so forth. So as far as this now changing the way we look at savings, the way we look at money, and how we look at all these different things, I think is a good thing. And now, of course, it's not like you can just have a baby and start spending your sats everywhere, or have a baby and take that $1,000 from the government and then go, I don't know, go buy a new TV or something. This is something that is long term. And I think that is a good thing in the long run, because not only do these children come into this world with a benefit and they're looking forward to whatever these things are once they mature at age 18 or whatever, but they can look back and say, wow, this thing started with just $1,000. Now it starts all of those questions and conversations that they could have with their parents. But also at the same time, parents are going to be looking at this and saying, wow, this thing is actually growing. This is compounding over the years. So, hey, why does Junior have to be the only one to get these benefits? Why can't we start saving? Why can't we put some money into Bitcoin? Why can't we put money into our future and pay our future selves? So I think that's a really good thing, that not only training and looking forward to, I guess you'd say, whatever beautiful thing comes from this for these children, I think the cool thing about this is it's also resetting the expectations of the parents, and going forward, I think some really positive things should be coming out of this. But of course, speaking of the children and resetting expectations, check this out right here. I think this is very interesting too. A story that I see coming out of New Zealand, which really excites me because, as far as I know, this is the first country that's doing this. I don't know anywhere else that's doing this. And if you do know somewhere else that is doing this, please feel free to shoot me a message and I will highlight this on the show. These are great stories that we like to share with the world, and we're looking forward to more and more countries doing things like this. So, New Zealand is introducing Bitcoin education in its schools by 2027. And I'll save you all of this reading and researching, but you can actually look deeper down this rabbit hole, if you will. But the reason why I think this is very interesting is, again, the long term horizon. You have children and one of the problems with this world is that none of us, for the most part, unless we are in very privileged circles, have been educated on money, right? Many of us that have fallen into finance, have discovered Bitcoin, have discovered all the problems with the world, has done that on their own. So I find this very interesting that children years 1 through 10, the schooling system is a little bit different over there, will be educated on Bitcoin. And of course, the same thing happens again, like I said, with the Bitcoin savings plan and those baby funds, if you will. I think it's just going to open up Pandora's box, spark that curiosity, if you will. And I think that is a positive thing. I personally am all for anything that is not just remember the answer is C, memorize this, don't think this is what the teacher wants to hear. Check this box and go on, because this is going to make you a productive employee. And that's what the world is looking for. That's how the educational system's set up right now. And I think things of this nature, where children are learning what the impact of money, what money actually is, and all of these different things, does benefit people, benefits humanity, and again, resets the culture in the sense that people are going to start to think a little bit more long term, as opposed to instant gratification. Now, if you really want to go down this rabbit hole, you can look at, like, there's different schools of thoughts as far as like schools of economics and all this stuff, which we spend a lot of time speaking about on a lot of the spaces with Wolf Bitcoin, but I'm not going to go into Keynesian economics and Austrian economics and all this stuff right now. But you can research that, the difference between just mindsets. And I think this is just a really cool thing right here, as far as children being taught the value of long-term Bitcoin, the value of savings long-term, as opposed to just instant gratification. So a few things that I think is really, really interesting in that regard. But second thing that we like to talk to you about is circular economies. Now, a lot of the times we speak about circular economies, we speak about what's happening globally, but I think it's just very interesting. 2 weeks in a row, I am featuring US based stories. And of course, last week was the explosion that's happening within Las Vegas. A lot of businesses, small businesses in Las Vegas, are now accepting Bitcoin. But this right here, I know this might trigger some people. Bitcoin is not crypto. Yes, I understand where you're coming from with this, but just bear me out. This particular survey, this data, if you will, came from PayPal, which is another conversation in itself. But PayPal, those of you that don't know, merchant services, one of the easiest ways to collect payment back, those of us who came online in the early 2000s. PayPal was a godsend. Lots of issues with those of us who have used it for years. However, they really embraced crypto because they understand that their business model is under attack and so forth. So they've added Bitcoin, they've added other ones, including their own stablecoin and so forth, in their ecosystem. So businesses can actually use those things right now. And now they said 39% of merchants now accept crypto within PayPal, according to this survey. And the reason why I think that's actually interesting is because I personally believe that all roads lead to Bitcoin, right? Once you realize and understand, like, wow, this technology can save me on processing, chargeback fees, and it is a much better model. It's faster. The settlement issues that I have all go away with this quote unquote blockchain technology. Well, the granddaddy of them all, we know, is Bitcoin. So I think that once someone tastes this and understands how the technology works, guess what? All roads lead to Bitcoin, because many of us, including myself, I don't know about you, did not initially start off with this full understanding and appreciation of what Bitcoin was. I came into the space for lots of other reasons, more as a techie, looking at the technology of the blockchains. That's what really impressed me. And then the more I studied it, I was like, oh, wow, this is why it solves monetary problems and Bitcoin is sound money. And this is why the granddaddy of them all is by far the best database and all of those things that we praise about decentralization, security. We can go on and on and on and on. I'm preaching to the choir right now. Don't have to go over the whole thesis of what Bitcoin is. But I discovered this from a techie coming in, understanding the difference between blockchains and databases. And then I came to appreciate this. So if a merchant's coming in and seeing benefits and getting PayPal stablecoins or whatever it might be, and they realize that, after 39%, a lot of Bitcoiners want to spend their Bitcoin, they go to other options and check out other things. So with that, another interesting thing besides this report coming out of Bitcoin Magazine here is that there's been a 65% increase year over year of businesses that are accepting Bitcoin. Now, this is a Bitcoin specific stat, not from this article right here. Let me go back to me because I don't want to distract you with this article, because this 65% is not quoted in this article. I have found other articles, other sources, and 65% year over year increase in Bitcoin. Now, a lot of that has to do with what Block is doing with Cash App and Square. But also, if you notice, there's a lot of pop-up boutiques that are educating and teaching business owners the benefits of accepting Bitcoin. And I think that's just really cool in the sense that you have businesses, their entire model, just like how years ago, you had businesses that were getting people into having websites, getting online payments, merchants accounts set up. There was a lot of third party before Stripe took over the world and PayPal, Shopify. It was a much more complicated thing. There was merchant accounts. There was payment authorization gateways. Those of us that remember authorize.net and VeriSign, all these different ones that you'd go through, multiple companies that were setting up these things. And there are all these little pop-up boutiques that were merchant account vendors where they would connect the business to actually the person who is processing the credit card. So there's a lot of middlemen. So now we see the opportunity of a lot of businesses popping up. Not going to name any of them or endorse any of them, but you can do the research on them to figure out that they're consultants and businesses, like their sole purpose is helping a business to set up their infrastructure to receive Bitcoin. And a lot of times they're going to Square, they're going to PayPal or whatever it might be, because these businesses still have real world costs. They have their staff to pay. They have light bill inventory to replenish and so on. So there is somewhat of a transition period that we're going through right now where the taxes, the suppliers might not accept Bitcoin, but customers want to pay in Bitcoin. So does that mean the business should say, no, I'm not going to accept the Bitcoin because that's not going to help me to replenish the stock? No, obviously not. Because if Bitcoins want to come to you to spend your money as a business owner, why would you turn them away, right? It's good money. It's better money. So of course you're going to accept this. So these businesses are popping up, sharing and teaching business owners, small business owners in particular. A lot of these Fortune 500 companies that are working with Chase Bank, they're working with the Fidelities and the Black Rocks of the world, they're getting their education behind the scenes. But a lot of these mom and pop shops that might have just one store, maybe 2 employees, they don't really understand that. And that's why I thought it was really interesting last week when I was highlighting all that stuff that's happening in Vegas. Those were really small businesses. But in addition to all of that, I'd like to speak about the tech, of course. And this one is a much more simple simple article that we're going to take a look at. And this is really interesting because a lot of times we like to speak about the money aspect of it, the monetary aspect of why we think Bitcoin is so awesome. But behind all of this, there is a group of developers, techies, if you will, behind the scenes that are doing all sorts of interesting things. And what I found interesting about this particular article, which I think is just really cool, because a lot of times the reason why some of these people ended up on these alt chains and altcoins and chasing after, the foolishness, as many hardcore Bitcoiners will say, is, and I'm putting that nicely, of course, they'll say that, of course, drawing the line between Bitcoin and crypto and blockchains and that whole industry. I mean, understandably so, I understand that. but the development, now there were limitations that could happen on, or the limitations from what could be built natively on Bitcoin. So I find it just really interesting that core developers is seeing a 60% surge after years of decline, meaning that a lot of the development community had gone over to those other chains. So it was one thing to, make fun of the meme coin traders and the degens that do not value sound money, but it is another thing to speak to developers. And that's why I'm really, I guess, in a privileged position, which I absolutely enjoy working with Wolf and having a lot of these spaces that we do have, is because I get to speak to miners, I get to speak to developers, I get to speak to traders, long-term investors, people that are setting up circular economies. And it's just really interesting that each of these various parties have very different ways of looking at Bitcoin. And I guess you would say the community, the group that has been sort of dwindling, kind of forgotten, overlooked, if you will, would be the developers. And these are the core developers. And of course, there's the whole core reverse knots and all this stuff, but not going down that route right now. What I just think is really exciting and interesting is that there is a surge. Now, the way they calculated this is actually questionable at best, to try to see how they're actually seeing how these developers are more active. But nevertheless, needless to say, the way in which they calculated it, 60% surge in that. And this fellow here, Lap, you could check him out. He has a whole bunch of stuff. He's actually a core developer. And anywho, I just think it's just really interesting that years of quote unquote decline, a lot of developers went over to other chains, are either now coming back to Bitcoin, or even more impressive and exciting, brand new developers that are Bitcoiners are now coming into the ecosystem and contributing. So there's all sorts of different things that are happening here. And I just find that really interesting, because at the end of the day, we are people, we are using this wonderful technology, and without it solving problems for people, it's very, very hard to onboard the next set of the next generation of Bitcoiners. Have you tried to orange pill a family member at a family gathering, or maybe at a grocery store or something, random conversation pops up and you try to orange pill someone? Usually it doesn't go pretty well. 9 out of 10 times it does not, right? And if they do receive it, a lot of times they come into the space thinking that, oh, all you can do with this thing is a trader. You find themselves getting wrecked in meme coins. And then they come back to you saying, yeah, this crypto stuff, this Bitcoin blockchain stuff doesn't really work out. And then it's like, oh, crap, that did not go to plan. Anywho, what I think is the best way, the best route to onboard people, and I say this all the time, so if you've been on spaces with me, it's solving their problems, meeting them where they are, and showing them how this technology, and we're talking about Bitcoin here, solves their problems. And that's why they become Bitcoiners. They're excited about it. And they say, oh, wow, yeah, a meme coin could never solve this problem that I have as a merchant, or as a person in a country with my currency devaluing. Well, the meme coins are going down as fast, if not faster, than their fiat. So obviously that's not the route to go. So when you're talking about monetary problems, you're talking about merchant problems, I think it is much easier and simpler and exciting, actually, to lean with what that person cares about, solve their problems, and then introduce the technology in that limelight. Because, or did I say limelight? Yeah, in that spotlight is what I'm trying to say, rather than trying to force the narrative of decentralization, the government's trying to take your wealth, you're going to be poor. Most people don't really see that. And even if that is true, they just think, well, what am I going to do about it anyways? And that's not an uplifting, positive message. And going back to the whole point, gluing this all together, why this Good Bit Show is something that I find very interesting and exciting is the simple fact that right now, all sorts of craziness is happening around the world in markets, and it doesn't matter. I am more excited about Bitcoin today than I was yesterday. And I'll probably be more excited about Bitcoin tomorrow than I am today, because I see how it is impacting humanity and just amazing things that are happening around the world. And, even a simple thing like the El Zante circular economy summit just took place. They're down there at Plan B Summit. They're doing a lot of things, grassroots, boots on the ground. And I see lots of videos coming out from these neighborhood community centers in various countries all around the world. They made their way down to El Zante. And again, if you didn't see what I was speaking about, just check out the last week's stream, speaking about all the amazing things that's happening in as far as the the conferences there this week in El Zante and El Salvador. And it's just really interesting to see boots on the ground. These aren't people who are buttoned up suits and trying to figure out how to buy their next yacht. These are people that are local, trying to solve the local problems that they do have. And we get the privilege and we get to share that with you guys. So, as far as those are the three segments, I guess you would say that I wanted to cover and highlight today, but I just want to take a look to see how things are going on this side here. And it looks like this is glitching just a little bit. But as far as how things are going, if you ever, again, come across anything that you find exciting, you really think needs to be shared, please feel free to share that with me, share that with the Wolf Bitcoin page, share that with Cade. We'll work together in the scenes and get this highlighted, put on the stream. And for whatever reason, right now, the comments and questions are not loading up. And I'm afraid to hit refresh before it crashes the whole stream. We don't want that. It's working right now. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So with that said, though, I just want to thank you all for spending this time with us. It is a Saturday afternoon, and it is a privilege and an honor, again, to just work in this field, share these amazing stories, and connect with each and every one of you. And if there's anything that I might have said a little bit confusing, whatever it might be, just reach out to me. Ask me. I'll clarify it. Maybe on the next stream, I'll even pull it up and say, hey, so-and-so said this, and I just want to clarify this, because normally when I could pull up the comments and everything, what I like to do is load them on screen, answer any questions. And if anyone missed anything, or if I missed anything, then I can clarify it right then and there. But until next time, I just want to thank you again. Every Saturday, 7 p.m., we will be highlighting all the positive things that's happening within Bitcoin. So regardless of what the charts do next week, we will be here. We will be sharing all these amazing stories and know the work of people all around the world. And we will see you there. So have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. This has been